All right. Now, firstly, thank you very much, GX Bank, for bringing us here today, right? But I'm more interested in one particular topic today. You know, with all this digital bank, kan, there must be a lot of things going on at the back, kan. So today the topic is going to be about behind the scenes. We're going to talk, go a little bit into the details of what are those works that are put behind to make this whole thing successful, all right? I'm quite interested to understand one thing, right? Which is when first digital bank was being announced, how many of y'all were actually thinking to yourself, what's so different about digital bank and traditional bank, right? Now, for the both of you, you have been long in the industry. You all have already seen all the things that's been happening. Maybe you can share with us a little bit more, right? What do you see are some of those evolution in the finance industry over the years? But more importantly is that after you look at all these fintech opportunity and so on, what is so different about digital bank? And what's so exciting about it that you want to work with them?
So, yeah, you're right. I think the first impression for digital bank means everything is kind of like you can do it on the go, right? Compared with you need to go to a branch. My personal experience being working in a company, right? Sometimes very hard to find the time. I think number two is that, in terms about the digital bank, is you're also serving different segment customers. So it's like we're looking at more like those like B40 kind of segments. I think we as a payment infrastructure company, right? So we are kind of like really supporting the fundamental money movement. And also we are kind of providing like the My Debit cards, so you can also use it for offline usage.
The reason this segment of digital banks in Malaysia or even elsewhere is so interesting to us is, these digital banks or neobanks, they're not encumbered with legacy technology. They're always kind of thinking about innovative use cases to reach their customers. And we provide technology that is flexible, open, and we believe that we can execute on of those use cases with all the APIs and all the good stuff that we have. So that's kind of important for us, just having a like-minded partner, right, in terms of driving innovation in digital financial services. The other business that Euronet has is around money remittance. So we provide cross-border payment rails to any licensed financial institution like GX Bank. So potentially your customer can initiate a cross-border payment, could be a business payment or a consumer payment, and we deliver those funds on a real-time basis into the beneficiary's account. And lastly, we're one of those companies that actually straddles both in the digital payment side and the physical payment side. So we have a large network of ATMs globally and in Malaysia as well. And I think that's a very complementary offering to the digital banks, where the digital banks have a digital-only offering. And they can partner with us in terms of leveraging our physical infrastructure in the form of cash dispensation or cash deposits. So this is, I would say, a very relevant customer segment for our business.
I guess for us, MasterCard is very much about financial inclusion, okay? And like everyone mentioned, we are very much about financial inclusion, which includes opening up and targeting new segments like the underbanked or unbanked segments. And that's where GX Bank for us is the perfect partner to do this, because it's digital, it appeals to a newer segment, it appeals to the digital natives. And that's where for us, from the back end, we have a lot of products and solutions that supports this whole digital ecosystem that Grab is embarking on.
Now, I have to say, I'm actually quite impressed, because usually when you see a new bank coming up, right, the process is a little bit slow. The way that it goes about and everything, it takes a little bit of time. But I have to say, GX Bank actually went through quite a record-breaking speed, in my opinion, in terms of when it comes to launching, international payment networks, all the way until coming out with their debit card and that awesome 1% return. Just about the other day, right, my office were discussing on how to save some pennies, right? And then they were saying, hey, you know what? I'm starting to use my GX Bank debit for all my toll payment, parking payment, everything, because everyday sure use. Every day at least save 1% from there. Now, the person that made QR payment very convenient for many Malaysians, is you, right, Cheng? Okay, not you lah, but specifically PayNet lah, huh? Yeah, but thank you. Because of you now, I can just scan and then I can make my payments, right? So the question is this: as the country's national payment network, what are your thoughts on Malaysia's journey into digital bank? And how do you see your role in this exciting new banking evolution?
First of all, I know GX Bank just recently rolled the Do It Now QR, good job, right? It's like every week you guys putting some new service to the customer. That's kind of a spirit. I think for PayNet, right? So maybe back to the Do It Now QR, right? The journey starts from 2019, right? We see significant growth on this domain. We just give some number. Last year, I think we operate 360 million transactions. If you compare with 2022, more than 3 times. And also, when we do payment, there are two sides, right? Once you can using your GXPay to pay, but you also need to make sure whenever you go, that people can accept it, which is acceptance, right? So starting from 2019, the touch points were roughly about 300K. But can you imagine, I think by last year, we reached more than like 2 million, 6 times. So all these numbers show that digital payment is trending. Everybody get adapted to it. Oh, by the way, all the numbers came from the last week's Bank of Niagara year 2023 report, right? All the numbers, right? So all these numbers show, number one, I think the country is ready. Number two is that people are really getting used to it. So this is the best timing for the digital bank. Because to me, digital bank also carry the mission about financial inclusion from banking industry, right? Our mission, or even my team's job, is to make sure like payment is kind of like accessible, secure, and convenient. And I believe that GXBank also carry the same spirit. It's more broader kind of banking service.
Thank you. I think it's really interesting, right? When it comes to all this technology play, sometimes we take it for granted where you can just open our camera and just scan it. But actually, there's so much going at the back. Now, I want to ask one question. This is regarding international transfer. When a new product is being launched, it's quite rare to see it immediately. It can be international transaction unless it's built for that. But GXBank actually took this stance and say, hey, we're going to start immediately by allowing people to transact globally. So why do you think this is important?
I think Malaysia is part of a larger bloc in ASEAN. There's a lot of cross-border trade and commerce happening between Malaysia and its neighboring countries. So making sure that a card proposition that can be used overseas, I would say, is really, really critical and should be a day one offering, and that's exactly what GXBank has done.
When you guys do all these things, right? Actually, I'm starting to feel like, actually, there's so many things. Do you feel like there's so many things actually, like half of it, you feel like, hey, actually, what are they doing? And like, so difficult like that. I bet, right? For us, it's already challenging. But for you guys who are trying to implement it, I bet it's like a lot of challenges and lessons along the way. So maybe can you guys share with us a little bit, what are some of the lessons that you guys learned in terms of implementing this whole thing?
So to me, what would be a very good learning, or what's important, is that we need to have a very good plan and very, very good project management to ensure that everything goes very smoothly. So that's where we at MasterCard, we provide data and services, consulting services, and that's where we helped make sure that a lot of the decisions that were made were very data-driven, as well as we also had a very good project management that helped with a lot of technical implementation. So that minimized the risk for the go-to-market.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say any challenges, but I would really say that it's an added responsibility to make sure that the solution that is live in the market is compliant from a regulatory standpoint. And then the other element that we cannot all ignore is security, right? So the regulators' trust and the confidence, and the customer's confidence on digital payments, I think that's super important. So I wouldn't say there are challenges leading up to this day, but a lot of responsibility on all of us as partners to GXBank.
Yeah, I think it's more about like, it's a journey. To me, it's a journey, right? So you start something like both are two new teams. So for PayNet, we have been putting dedicated support for GXBank, right? So starting from the first Do It Now fund transfer, then towards my debit, and recently the QR. And by the way, also jump back big to just now the topic about cross-border. Actually, our Do It Now QR also supporting cross-border, right? So all this kind of service is kind of like we are really want to, number one is that to really understand the agenda from the bank, so we can craft all the different timeline. But importantly, like also Rudy mentioned, the project management is important, right? So we know the urgency, we know the timeline. We understand like even for GXBank, they are running a very agile method. Every 2-3 weeks, getting something out. So we can all plan accordingly. So which means as long as both sides having the expectation, we can definitely working better.
Great. And last but not least, the person that I spoke to a lot during the past few months, which is actually Hilda. Right? Let's give it a hand for Hilda, right? Now, Hilda, so you have been toiling behind this whole thing, right? Putting all this together. Maybe it's time that you share with us. What are some of the lessons that you have learned and the obstacles that you have overcome?
What everyone sees is this beautiful interface, is this ease of doing things. And that intent is actually supported by everyone on this panel here. The complexity is hidden from you intentionally because we think about the customers out there. We think about what makes it easy for you. And that's why we need all these lovely gentlemen up here to bring together that technology, that commitment, that understanding of our needs and our desires so that we can meet everything that you see. So the lesson that we've learned is that when you start with the solve, I want to solve X. I'm going to make sure that that person gets what they want. How am I going to make it accessible? How am I going to make them understand? I need to have serious people behind me and be able to distill that technology, distill all that into a beautiful app in front of you. We couldn't have done it without these guys, to be very honest. And we only want to work with the best. Whatever is in the market, we work with the best because they bring their experience with them.
Yeah, I remember when I first spoke to Hilda on the whole idea of digital banking. It started off with me one day. I forgot my password and I tried to reset it. And what happened is that they say, you have to go to the branch. To the horror of my life, I'm like, I've never stepped into a branch for so long before, right? And so I was telling Hilda about that experience and I had to take leave, you know. And subsequently, when I changed my phone number, I took almost one day off just to go to every single bank to change my phone number. That disaster and horror is something that you will not appreciate the kind of unseen work that's put in until you have to go through it yourself. Yeah, so let's give it a hand to these guys on the stage who really make this possible. Now, I'm going to go to one very important question here. I want to ask you guys, right? Because you guys have been long in the industry. You guys are the giants, right? How has it been like working with GX Bank?
It's been a good ride, I would say. Very engaging. Exchange of ideas in both ways. They forced us to innovate. We felt that we're already a very innovative company. But thanks to that, and also very agile in terms of, yeah, we need this and let's move fast, right? And that aligns well with the ethos of our company as well. So I'd say it was a good marriage.
My feeling is that both two teams are working very closely. We need speed, we also need quality. But finally, I think whatever the feature we're being serving, the Royal got it.
So I think that we've got a really, really great partnership. We work very closely with the team and we believe that the GX Bank has got a really, really great team. And that is why they've launched really, really good products that's really specialized and tailored to the new segments. And yeah, we think it's a great partnership, a great marriage.
Now, Hilda, so you are an important part in GX Bank, obviously, right? And you've been working with them, right, under GX Bank together. And I understand that to actually launch this whole digital bank, together as a team, you guys as partners had to push a lot of boundaries. We all know there's a lot of behind the scenes, a lot of pushing of boundaries. And at the same time, you're working with big giants. So how was it like, this whole experience, this partnership? And what do you look forward to the future moving ahead?
I think what's really important is that we all want the same thing. We're moving towards the same objective with the same goals, right? And you're right, because in Malaysia we're the first, those boundaries are quite undefined. There's literally there's no line for you to say, that's my boundary, no. And to work with people who understand that, to say that, this is what we want, there are really no clear boundaries, let's work around that. And that really means a lot to us, right? So the ability to innovate, to pivot, to be agile, to be responsive, but guided by the same purpose, I think that's what makes all this work.
I'd just like to add, I think in addition to innovation, agility, I think it's the customer centricity. Just making sure that the customer is actually at the center of all the propositions and all the products that you want to launch. I think that's something that we saw
the same purpose of serving that customer, right? That's central to that narrative, and because all of us want the same thing, so it's very easy to move forward, right?
I think at the end of the day is that we tend to work together, absorb all the complexity at the back hand. User experience really matters. At the end of everything is about user experience.
We actually are 100% behind GX Bank. We've got full confidence that this bank will do really, really well.
Now, I'll just give you guys an audience there a little bit of perspective and why this is very exciting to me. All of you all remember the debit card, right? It is unheard of that debit card gives 1% cashback. I know it sounds like I'm like, oh, what's this fella raving? Maybe because he's the moderator here. No. Actually, whether or not am I the moderator here, you ask yourself, right, have you ever heard of a debit card giving 1% cashback? So that is one of the things about pushing boundaries. Number two, over the conversation as I was having with the gentleman here and Hilda, right, what I do realize is that the most beautiful thing about this whole digital banking concept is the idea that it starts off native digital. Today, just by starting off at a different foot itself, to be digitally native changes the whole game. And that's what gets me excited. So thank you very much to the dear panelists. Thank you very much for sharing your insights.
Thank you.
And please sign up for your debit card if you haven't yet. Thank you.